I'll tell you about the pilot and the co-pilot. They're coming into LAX, and by golly, they're nervous. I mean, the sweat was pouring off their brows. And they're bringing that 737 down as quickly as they can. Screech! The wheels touched the runway, and they throttled it back and clamped on the binders. Full flaps. Yeah, they was standing on the brink as hard as they could, and the sweat was pouring down. And they were praying to the good Lord, stop, please stop. And the plane had done stopped an inch from the edge of the runway. And the pilot said, that was the shortest runway I ever saw. And the co-pilot says, yeah, but look how wide it is. Which reminds me of a story I told you a long time ago. I was ferrying pilots back and forth from, where was that? Port Angeles, I guess. No, Forks, Washington, the lumber capital or something. Full of all those old dead cedar trees. It's a story for another time. And I'm trying to get back, and the weather was closing in. I got her too high up above the clouds and thought I'd never get down, and I found a little opening and spun her down through, and there was the seacoast, and fortunately I could see the shore, and I was looking around for an airport, and according to the map and the charts, there was one there somewhere, and it was windy as bejeepers could be Christ, and yeah, well, now for the rest of it. I kept approaching that runway, and every time I'd go to screech them tires down and stomp on the binders, a gust of wind would flap. And next time round, I was crabbing it in. I had that stick pulled to the left and the rudder to the right. My foot clamped down on it there, and I'm skidding sideways down the runway, crabbing my way down, and couldn't make it, so I had to push the throttle to the wall and come around again. Third time around again, I heard them tires screech, but it wasn't too far from the end of the runway, and at the end of the runway there was a big hill, a big drop-off, and yeah, I ran right off of that blacktop there and right onto the grass, and just about tumbled that plane upside down, but I saved her at last, 'cause I clamped on them binders. Yeah, and they were heel binders, too. Now, they lived a fulfilled and yet lonely life, drifting out to sea. It was a soggy scape of sails and boats, drifting off the horizon like the plastic had melted the boat. And high above, the clouds were raining down that dirty, pouring stuff, and on the plane of pleasure and pain, a soul and body got sucked right into a dark hole. Century after century, they all survived. They lived a fulfilled but lonely life, drifting out to sea on that soggy scape. Sails and boats drifting off horizons high above the clouds. Dirty rains were pouring down, and on the plane of pleasure and pain, souls and bodies got sucked into the dark holes. And century after century, they all survived. But it wasn't the same without. Each night they prayed to the stars above to guide them safely home. But all it did was shine so bright and lead them on and on. They were tired of being lost, yet the same, so alive, reflecting on their living, their love and loss. They had survived. On a plane of pleasure and pain, the souls and bodies sucked into the dark hole. Century after century, they all survived, but it's not the same without. asked the doctor where I should put my pants during my prostate examination. And he said, over there next to mine. That wasn't the answer I had expected. And thus it went on and on, for they had survived. Or they had survived. Now, for the rest of the story. Yeah. Moses and Jesus are sitting in a boat on a lake, and Moses turns to Jesus and said, you know, I wonder if I still got it. And he stands up to the bow there, spreads his arms wide, and on command, the lake parts and the boat settles into the seaweed and the mud and muck. He brings his arms back, and the water rushes back in, lifting the boat to the surface and the waves. And Jesus says, that's cool. I wonder if I still have it. And he stands up on the gunwale of the boat and takes a step out onto the water and sinks straight down to the bottom. Bubble, 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 toil and trouble. Moses quickly does his trick and parts the water. And Jesus is safely back in the boat. Wow, what happened? Well, the last time I did that, I didn't have these damn holes in my feet.